The saga of Bjorn Bloodaxe. In the days when the gods still walked among men, when the frozen fjords echoed with the clash of steel and the roar of dragon-prowed longships, there lived a warrior named Bjorn Bloodaxe. His name was whispered in fear around hearthfires, for he was the mightiest of the berserkers, those fell warriors who fought with the strength of bears and the fury of wolves. Bjorn was born on a night when the aurora danced like green fire across the sky, and the Norns themselves were said to have attended his naming. From childhood, he showed signs of the battle madness, his eyes gleaming with an inner fire that both awed and terrified those around him. As he grew to manhood, Bjorn's fame spread throughout the Northlands. His axe, a fearsome weapon forged by dwarven smiths and quenched in dragon's blood, never failed to find its mark. In battle, he would cast aside his armor, his skin turning hard as iron, impervious to blade or arrow. He fought with the strength of 10 men, his battle cry freezing the blood of his enemies. But with great power came a terrible price. Each time Bjorn surrendered to the battle madness, a piece of his humanity slipped away. The quiet moments between raids became torture, his mind plagued by the faces of those he had slain, their screams echoing in his dreams. He found solace only in the company of his fellow berserkers, men who understood the burden of their gift. It was on a raid to the eastern lands that Bjorn's life changed forever. As their longship rounded a misty headland, they came upon a settlement unlike any they had seen before. The buildings were of strange, smooth stone, and in the center stood a tower that seemed to touch the very clouds. The Jarl, Hakon One-Eye, ordered the attack. But as the berserkers leaped from their ship, howling their war cries, they were met not with fear, but with eerie silence. The streets were empty. No children ran screaming, no women hurried to hide their valuables. It was as if the entire settlement had simply vanished. Bjorn felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold wind blowing off the sea. His battle madness, always simmering beneath the surface, refused to rise. For the first time in his life, he felt fear. "Something is wrong here," he growled to Hakon. "We should leave this place." But the Jarl, his eye gleaming with greed at the prospect of untold riches, would not be deterred. "Are you a man or a cowering thrall?" he sneered. "We came for plunder, and plunder we shall have." Reluctantly, Bjorn followed his lord into the silent city. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally loud on the stone streets. As they approached the central tower, Bjorn's unease grew. The very air seemed to thicken, pressing against them like an invisible hand. At the base of the tower, they found a door of black metal, covered in strange runes that seemed to writhe and shift as Bjorn looked at them. Hakon reached out to touch the door, and as his fingers brushed the surface, it swung open with a sound like a dying man's last breath. Inside, they found riches beyond imagining. Gold and silver coins spilled from open chests, precious gems glittered in the torchlight, and weapons of exquisite craftsmanship lined the walls. The berserkers fell upon the treasure with whoops of joy, stuffing their pockets and bags. But Bjorn held back. His eyes were drawn to a small alcove at the far end of the chamber. There, on a pedestal of obsidian, sat a helm unlike any he had ever seen. It was forged of some dark metal that seemed to drink in the light, adorned with twisting horns and a face guard shaped like a snarling beast. As if in a trance, Bjorn approached the helm. The voices of his comrades faded away, replaced by a low, thrumming whisper that seemed to come from the helm itself. It promised power beyond his wildest dreams, the strength to conquer not just lands, but entire realms. With trembling hands, Bjorn lifted the helm. It was surprisingly light, and as he placed it on his head, he felt a surge of energy course through his body. The battle madness rose within him, stronger than ever before, threatening to consume him entirely. But with it came knowledge. Bjorn saw visions of ancient battles, of warriors long dead who had worn this very helm. He saw the true nature of the berserker's rage, not a gift from the gods, but a curse born of dark magic and terrible sacrifice. With a roar of anguish, Bjorn tore the helm from his head. "We must leave this place," he shouted to his companions. "This treasure is cursed." But it was too late. As Bjorn's words echoed through the chamber, the air itself seemed to come alive. Ghostly figures materialized around them, warriors from every age and land, their eyes burning with an unnatural hunger. The berserkers fought with all their legendary fury, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the spectral attackers. One by one they fell, their life force drained away by cold, incorporeal hands. Bjorn alone stood his ground, the cursed helm clutched in his hands. He could feel its power calling to him, promising the strength to defeat even these unearthly foes. For a moment, he was tempted to put it on, to surrender to its dark magic. But the faces of his fallen comrades flashed before his eyes. With a mighty effort of will, he raised the helm high and brought it smashing down upon the stone floor. The metal shattered like glass, and a terrible scream filled the air. The ghostly warriors vanished like mist in the morning sun. The tower began to tremble, stones falling from the ceiling. Bjorn ran, dodging falling debris, the bodies of his comrades left behind in the collapsing ruin. He emerged into the pale light of dawn, gasping for breath. Behind him, the tower crumbled into dust, taking with it all trace of the cursed treasure. Bjorn fell to his knees, overwhelmed by grief and exhaustion. For 3 days and nights, he sat upon the shore, neither eating nor sleeping. He contemplated the nature of the Berserker's rage, the price of power, and the weight of the lives he had taken. When he finally rose, his eyes held a new wisdom, and his heart a new purpose. Bjorn Bloodaxe returned to his homeland, but not as a berserker. He laid down his axe and took up the role of a skald, a storyteller. He traveled from village to village, sharing the tale of the cursed helm and the true nature of the battle madness. Many laughed at his warnings, calling him a coward who had lost his taste for battle. But some listened, and in time, the number of those who sought the berserker's path began to dwindle. Years passed and Bjorn grew old. His once mighty frame became bent, his fiery hair turned white as snow, but his eyes never lost their intensity, and his voice never wavered as he told his tale. On the last night of his life, as he sat by the fire in a mead hall far from his birthplace, a young warrior approached him. The youth's eyes burned with a familiar fire, and Bjorn felt a chill of recognition. "Old man," the warrior said, "I have heard your tale 100 times. You speak of the dangers of the battle madness, but I see only glory. Tell me truly, do you regret the power you once wielded?" Bjorn looked into the young man's eyes, seeing his own youth reflected there. For a moment he remembered the thrill of battle, the intoxicating rush of the berserker's rage. But then he remembered the faces of those he had slain, the comrades he had lost, and the terrible truth he had learned in that cursed tower. With a sad smile he replied, "The only power worth having, young one, is the power to choose who you will be. I chose to be a teller of tales, rather than a taker of lives, and in that choice, I found a glory far greater than any battle could provide." The young warrior opened his mouth to argue, but at that moment a strange look came over Bjorn's face. His eyes widened, focusing on something only he could see. A smile of profound peace settled on his weathered features, and with a soft sigh, Bjorn Bloodaxe, once the mightiest of berserkers, closed his eyes for the final time. The mead hall fell silent, warriors and skalds alike bowing their heads in respect. But the young warrior who had spoken to Bjorn felt a change come over him. The fire in his eyes dimmed, replaced by a thoughtful look. He picked up Bjorn's drinking horn and raised it high. "To Bjorn Bloodaxe," he called out, his voice ringing through the hall. "Not the greatest warrior, but the wisest of men. May his story be told as long as there are ears to hear it." As the warriors drank to Bjorn's memory, a cold wind blew through the hall, extinguishing the fires. In the sudden darkness, many could have sworn they heard the clash of spectral arms and the howl of wolf-helmed warriors. But when the torches were relit, there was no sign of anything amiss, save for a single white feather that floated down to rest on Bjorn's still form. And so ends the saga of Bjorn Bloodaxe, who learned that the greatest battles are not fought with axe and shield, but within the heart of every warrior. His tale would be told for generations, a warning and a beacon to those who sought to walk the path of the berserker. For in the end, it is not the fury of our battles that defines us, but the wisdom we gain from them. Thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts on the events covered in this video, please share them in the comments below. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss any video. Check out my next video, where I'll dive deeper into one of these topics.